What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and this video I want to talk about Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 2, that they are seemingly going to have PS5 versions available to them when the PS5 launches. So this comes from Push Square, and this is basically off the story that starting July 13th, that every game that applies for certification on a PlayStation 4, on the PlayStation platform, will have to have their game also running on PS5. They'll also have to be able to run on the PS5. I think that's obviously Sony's push that, okay, look, these games we need. Firstly, we're going to try and have as many games as possible that are going to be ported over, are going to be backwards compatible in that way. But any new game, too, you got to keep in mind that, we're moving on to the next gen. So it makes a lot of sense. This is something that I felt like was coming for a very, very long time. And so let me just read this article here, and then we'll kind of go over my analysis. Sony hasn't yet presented its full plans for backwards compatibility on PS5, but a new report from Eurogamer does provide us with some welcome insight. Sony has told devs that all new PS4 games submitted for certification after July 13th must be compatible with the PS5. But there's a detail in the aforementioned report that caught our eye. According to Eurogamer, both The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima will receive PS5 support, despite the fact that the two exclusives will have been submitted for certification long before the 13th of July. Of course, this comes as no real surprise, obviously, because these two games are both massive. So I think when it comes to these games, the question I have is pretty much how exactly is it going to work? Because, it is a little confusing. I think Sony, obviously because they haven't really talked about their backwards compatibility, we're still left to kind of guess. And I think these are things, luckily, that are going to be cleared up and are going to get better as time goes on. That's pretty obvious that I think within a month or two, or obviously, I guess hopefully, right, by the time the PS5 launches, every one of these questions would have been answered. But for these two specific games, well, I guess let's say in a general scope, we know a lot of games you're going to basically, even from Microsoft, that we kind of know this from Xbox One and Series X, you have the game, it'll upgrade itself to next gen. Okay, so if you buy the game on Xbox One, not every game can do this, right? Xbox exclusives are confirmed, and then it'll be up to the game's publisher to decide for each individual game after that, okay? But say the answer is yes, you get the game on Xbox One, you'll get the Xbox Series X version of that game if you have the Series X, okay? If you eventually get the Series X. Now, the question I think a lot of people have is, what exactly is that jump? Because not every game is going to, take advantage of what next gen is going to be able to do. So when you look at PlayStation, let's talk about PlayStation now. For The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, really there's two different questions, because in my mind, I've always seen these games as prime candidates for Game of the Year editions, of definitive editions, whatever word you want to use, of that version on the PS5. And what I mean by that is literally like what The Last of Us did with the PS4, that there was The Last of Us, and then there was The Last of Us Remastered, which bundled in the DLC, right, Left Behind, and also just upgraded it generally. Now, again, you have to assume that definitive editions, Game of the Year, whatever you want to call them, that those are higher quality than just upgrading your game. So basically, with this article, and even what I guess they're saying, because again, they're not very clear on what they're actually saying with Ghost of Tsushima and PS5, because obviously they will be ported to next gen, right? You'd have to imagine that the two biggest exclusives of the last year of PlayStation, you're going to be able to pop the disc, or if you have a digital, you'll be able to do it on the PS5. You have to imagine you'll be able to do that, and it'll be slightly increased. So the quality will be slightly increased, right? We kind of all, I think, expect that. And in fact, Microsoft is basically doing it with a ton of their games. Again, not just exclusives, a lot of their games. So hopefully PlayStation is doing the same. Again, we don't know that for sure. They have to confirm it. Although there was a leak last week that said they are going to have a free upgrade system. But again, free upgrade, that's fine. I'm not picking on them, because I've been asking them to have that, and I've been asking them to confirm that literally for the longest time. But a thing to add on to that is, again, what does that necessarily do? How much of a quality jump do you get with just the free upgrade versus if you do a definitive edition, a Game of the Year edition? What's the difference? And when it comes to Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, which one or both are they getting? Again, I think both of them are very big candidates to just get a PS5 version. You know what I mean? A definitive, especially, honestly, I think The Last of Us is the best one, because, we don't know how the multiplayer is going to work, but because that is a question, right? If the multiplayer is like you have to buy it because it's its own separate game and then it goes into The Last of Us Part 2, or if it's just a free update and it kind of like adds on to it. I guess if you're buying it, maybe there's a pack where it comes with it, and then that is like your Game of the Year edition for the PS5. You know what I mean? Like a bundled up version. That actually is a little confusing just all on its own how the multiplayer is necessarily going to work. I'm sure very soon after Part 2 comes out, I think probably by like July or August at the latest, we'll know when the multiplayer is coming, how it's going to work, how do we get it, how does it work with The Last of Us Part 2. I think we'll know all that. It is very exciting. I mean, talking about this kind of stuff is very exciting. I just kind of want to know the smaller details. So by the article, any game that like asks Sony like for certification, right, for publication on their system, which Ghost has already done, Last of Us has already done, but any game that does it after July 13th, you're guaranteed that those games. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean games that come out after July 13th, because again, Ghost of Tsushima actually does come out after July 13th, right? So it does depend on when, I guess, they ask Sony for their certification. But any game that does it after that, you're guaranteed that it'll run on the PS5. But again, going off of Xbox and Microsoft, we know that they're getting like literally everybody, as many people, as many game developers, as many publishers, as many games as humanly possible to be able to do this system. That like literally as many games as possible on the Xbox One will be able to run on the Series X. So Sony, the way they're saying it, kind of sounds like they're behind the 8 ball a little bit. I don't think they actually are, though. I think that again we'll kind of have that cleared up a little bit later. I think again the move of saying that, hey, you need like the games need to be compatible with the PS5 after July 13th, I think that's more of just a move to kind of say out loud where it's like, okay, so just so everybody is very clear, we are very seriously moving ahead. Like, we're not going to be on the PS4 forever, and we need these games to be able to run on next gen, right? But I think a lot of games have already done stuff in the background to make that work. Again, a lot of this stuff is wait and see, and again, luckily, we'll get the answers for them. But it's exciting. Honestly, it is exciting because I don't know about I actually don't know about either of these games, because I feel like obviously by the time the PS5 comes out, I would have beaten the story of both of these games. But if there's DLC in The Last of Us's case, if there's multiplayer, especially multiplayer, like if I'm still playing it, which I would, and we don't even know when multiplayer comes out, right? So if multiplayer comes out a week, a month before PS5, or even on PS5, I would like to play the multiplayer on my PlayStation 5 because my plan is to get it day one. My plan is to play all my games on the PS5. So why wouldn't I want to play The Last of Us's multiplayer on the PS5? You know what I mean? So I think that something like that makes a lot of sense. Something like that is very, very exciting, and it's just all a they will explain it to us. They will talk about this. It's just we have to wait a little bit longer. So guys, let me know in the comments below. What do you think? How do you think these two games are going to work with the PS5? Do you think they'll have their definitive editions? Do you think they'll have maybe just backwards compatibility? How do you think it's all going to work? Let me know. As always, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up, and thank you so much for watching, guys. I do a new video on this channel every single day, and so I hope to see you guys on tomorrow's video.